first started, I was actually at university and I started working in publishing. I worked on a student newspaper, and for whatever reason, publishing got into my blood. And as a result of publishing a newspaper, I became quite interested in advertising and marketing. And so I went and did a marketing degree and so forth. And as a result of publishing, I made a stupid choice to actually start an entertainment newspaper. And I have to tell you, it was probably the most stressful thing I ever did in my life. I was working probably 12 to 16 hour days, 7 days a week. And after, I would say, 6 months, I was so over entertainment and pubs and clubs and that sort of thing. But the business was failing at a rate of knots. I was churning through money, and after 6 months I just made the decision that I was burning out and I needed to close the business down. So a lot of people think about a business coach that you've had loads of successes, etc. Well, my first business was an abject failure. It took me 5 years to pay off the loan that I'd taken at this business loan that I had taken with this business. It nearly destroyed my health, nearly destroyed my family life, everything. I think what happened was that I got a PhD in what not to do. Okay, and subsequently I then went back and I thought, well, what would I do differently? How would I start a business, and how would I do it differently if I was to go back and start again with everything that I've learnt from this particular thing? Whatever happened was probably the worst right across the board that could have happened to me, right, in a business. So subsequently, the next businesses that I started, I just thought about where do I start? I'll start with a business plan, and that was what I did first. And subsequently, I really started to understand what's involved in actually creating a really great business. And if you've watched a show like Dragon's Den or Shark's Tank, if you were going on that show yourself, what you'd have to do is you'd have to submit your business plan, and the researchers actually they detach the executive summary from it, and they brief the dragons or the sharks, and those are the questions that those people will ask you on air. If you watch that show, they only ask about 8 types of questions. Subsequently, that was what I mastered. So I wrote a book called Starting, and this was actually written originally for corporate escapees. These were people who'd worked in corporate who wanted to actually leave that role and they want to start their own business. But we know there's an 80% failure rate, and we've had an 80% failure rate in businesses since at least the 1940s in Western economies. And they always say, write a business plan. Well, in my first business, I didn't even write a business plan. In my subsequent businesses, I did write a business plan. The purpose of that plan was to make sure that the idea was a good one, that we were stress testing the assumptions underneath it, and that was something that I was prepared to invest time and money into. And that's what I put into my book. Subsequently, as a result of that, my next business, from an accounting point of view, it grew in value. So the balance sheet looked really good. Secondly, it made a profit. It was very profitable. Thirdly, it had really good cash flow, so the liquidity part of it, and that ticks all the bases for your accountant. But I think for me personally, the great outcome was that it delivered the lifestyle that I wanted. It actually delivered the outcomes. So when I'm talking to business owners now, and typically I'm working with managing directors running companies, 6, 7, 8-figure companies. So it's anywhere from 300,000 up to say 4 to 7 million, somewhere in there. That's my sweet spot client. Typically what they want is they want high growth. They want the business to grow. They want it to be profitable. They certainly want good cash flow. But you could say that they also want the outcome. Why did I even start the business in the first place? What was the outcomes that this business is supposed to deliver? And what I found is a surprisingly high number of my clients who, if you look at them from the outside, if you look at the shop window, right, it looks a great business, right? When you go into that business, they talk about frustrations. They talk about the business isn't delivering what it was intended to deliver. And so my first businesses after my first failure, the business I started subsequently after that, they did really well from that perspective. People came along and they said, Andrew, can you help me build my business too? Can you help me sort out the problems in my business? So initially I was working with business owners just on business development issues. And then it started to then go into how to be a good manager. So I went from business development to more management development, developing people's skills in a management role. And as a result of that, that naturally progressed into leadership issues. What makes a good leader of a business, right? A lot of people say, I want a high-growth business and high-performing people. That's why I want good management skills. Actually, they've got it backwards. What they need is high-performing people so that you actually get a high-growth business. And so when I go into a business and I chat with what's happening in the business, that's what they usually end up telling me. They've usually got it backwards. So we sort that problem out for them. So where I've gone is from business development, management training skills into leadership development. That's where I've taken it. Yeah.